Good morning. This video is going to help you with the next factoring worksheet that you're going to do. This is factoring day 2, and I'm just going to run through some of the examples. It should feel like review today. I've got 2 types of problems that are a little different, which is the difference in squares and factor by grouping. Okay, so get your paper out. You're going to make sure you upload these notes to the Edpuzzle. So the interactive notebook, don't worry about it. We're just gonna make things simple this week, and then I'll revisit that if and when I'm ready to, okay? So sorry for the confusion. We're just gonna learn the math right now, okay? Let's not worry about the tech. Here we go. Number 1. So this is GCF, and she got a little faster today. So I'm just gonna, instead of factoring everything out, I'm just gonna go. Okay, so it looks like 6 is part of my GCF and 1p. So the GCF, don't forget to write it down. It's 6p. And then you're gonna write what's left over. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. And then you have this exponent 1. So you subtract 2 minus 1, you get 1p. And then plus 4, the p's become 1. Okay, so there's your first problem. All right. So the point of this exercise is to review what you did yesterday, as well as get used to problems being layered with GCF. Okay, so let's see. 7 does not look like it's going to go in here, so this is a really, really big problem. Now you could use the X, or you could use the trial and error method. I'm going to use the X, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it for you. All right, that was a big one. So you could see hopefully that the list was helping you out. So you want to stop the video and go back and check that out again. So make sure you're writing that out. So yeah, you're gonna have ones with big numbers. So be okay with that. Okay, this one has a GCF in it. So you can see you're gonna need a calculator. Okay, so what's in common with all 3? So definitely the x's, right? Because you have 3 x's here, 2 x's here, and 1 x here. And then I'm gonna double check. And it looks like 3 goes in there. It may not be the biggest one, but then at least that is where I can start. And I just want to do an eyeball and make sure that there isn't another bigger number that I could factor out. So 8, 4 and 2. Okay, so this has a 3. So there is not GCF, so you are forced to go back and do that X method. So I'm going to eventually have the answer like that. Okay, so don't be afraid of big numbers. Okay, remember I'm looking for 42. Okay, when I add these numbers up, so I'm just reminding you. Okay, looks like I'm getting closer. Okay, that's it. So this is the combination right here, but I might have missed it, which is why I'm making the list. Okay, so if you're not making the list, I want you to start writing it out for the bigger numbers. The smaller numbers I don't care about, but these bigger numbers, I want to see them on your paper, because when I have you do the interview or start doing the explain videos, which we won't start for a while, I definitely think that this is a good habit to get into. So your options are 6 and 36, that when you multiply, you get 216, and when you add, you get positive 42. So now I'm going back to the A term, which was 8, and I'm going to reduce the fractions. Let's see, 4 goes in there. All right, so I'm going to erase this part right here, get rid of it for you. Oops. Okay, so then I'm going to write those parentheses out now, so that's cool. We are almost done. Okay, so there is your next problem, and that was problem number 3, just to remind you what it was. Okay, next problem. All right, 4. Look at those big numbers again. But at least you can take a 5 out. No X's. Oops. So I'm using a calculator on these simple ones because I want to make sure I don't accidentally make some kind of computational mistake, because that would not be happy for you at your house. Okay, in this problem you might see right away that you can shortcut. I'm going to come over here and do the X again. So this would be a 100 on the top and then minus 20. So when you see it organized like this, hopefully you can see right away that 10 works here, but we got to make sure they're negative. So I didn't make a list because I could do that one pretty fast. So just be aware that you can shortcut. And this one, I can see how you could do that pretty fast. It's pretty obvious. The other one, not so obvious. Okay, so both of these numbers are the same, so I'm just going to reduce one time. And then I have 2 of them. And I'm going to rewrite it as a perfect square. Okay. So I would prefer you write it in this fashion, but if you left it like this, I'm not going to mark it wrong. it's completely fine. What I care about is the X method. Remember, Photomath does not do it this way. All right, this is your new concept. So this is not review from this year. Okay, it's a review from last year, but we haven't covered it this year, so I'm gonna make sure I cover it. All right, this one is called the difference of squares. So why is it called the difference of squares? Well, we have a difference, which is that minus sign. And difference in mathematics is usually minus. And then squares are numbers that are multiplied themselves. So 1 times 1 is a perfect square. 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 is a perfect square. And then you can see down here, keep going, and you get the point. So that means these numbers can be written as 1 squared, and then 2 squared, and so on. That is why they are called perfect squares. So I'm going to come over here. B times B is a perfect square, and 1 times 1 is a perfect square. So you can use the algorithm or shortcut, because it really is a shortcut, but then you need to go back and check if it works. Okay, so this is a perfect square, so it's B and B, and I actually wrote the B's up here for you. 1 is a perfect square, so I have 1 and 1. So you have to ask yourself, when you multiply two signs together, what gives you a negative? So a negative times a positive will give you a negative. And then I'm just going to do a quick check over here to make sure that everything is working out. For some reason my box is kind of cuckoo, so I don't want to erase it though. So I'm going to do B minus 1, and all I'm doing is a check to make sure that you understand why it is what it is. Okay. And then this is negative B, and then this is plus B, and then finally you have minus 1. So you can see that the B's in the middle are going to cancel out. I'll get that fixed. Sorry, it looks cuckoo. And then this is B squared, and this is the minus 1. So don't worry about writing out the check. I was just trying to show you, even though my my app seems to be on some kind of setting I gotta change. All right, so difference of squares. So difference of squares. So this one works exactly the same way. So I'm gonna rewrite this though, because it's setting you up for tomorrow's factoring, which is a little bit more challenging. So this is 5 times 5. Okay, and this can be rewritten as 5m squared and 1 squared. And remember the difference. What are two numbers that when you multiply them, you get negative? So if you understand this idea, it's really going to help you with tomorrow. Okay, so there you go. That's it. You would definitely want to check to make sure that you did it right, because we are shortcutting. And now I'm just going for it, right? That easy. Now, here's an additional example that I just want to talk to you about real quick. Now, in this example, it says 9v squared minus 16. That's the difference of squares. But I want you to keep in mind that if you get a problem like this, so what's the difference? There's a plus sign. This is not difference of squares. In fact, if you were to write this out as 3v plus 4 and then 3v plus 4 or 3v minus 4, and 3v minus 4, right? Because this is how you get a positive. This will never come out to be 9v squared. And if you don't believe me, check that out, but I don't want to do it in this video. Okay, so that is not the difference of squares. So I just want to keep that clear. Clear that one out. Okay, there are 12 problems in this video, so if you're wondering, and a lot of it is focusing on this difference of squares. Okay, and then we get into the new type of factoring review from last year, and it is factoring by grouping. So this one's called factoring by grouping. So how would you identify factoring by grouping? Generally, we have 4 terms, and I tried to make them today where you don't have to focus on the negative signs. Okay, so that was my goal today. Like, let's not focus on those negative signs. So factor by grouping is making groups, and then the idea is this is actually just GCF again in 2 groups. Okay, so you ignore the back part here and you only look at the front. So GCF looks like it's 3a squared, just for the first 2. So what's left over? And of course this becomes 1. Now I have to come over and do the same thing over here. This time the GCF looks like it's going to be, let me see if I can go big. It looks like it's 8, but no A, okay? Because there's not an A over here. So the 8 is positive, and then you'll perform the division. So I'm going to have you write that down. Pause the video if you need to. So what I mentioned before is that factoring by grouping is just a big GCF problem. Only now this is the GCF, so I'm going to box it. So you see it's the box that's exactly the same. So if you were to think this box was, like, say, an X, right, that whole ugly box was an X, it would mean that X was the GCF because it's common to both terms. But I don't have X, I have this big nasty box. So the box is what is common to both terms. Okay, it's just more complicated. That's why I put the X up here, so you have something to connect it to. So I said that the box was the GCF, so I'm gonna write that out first. So I'm pulling the box out, just like all the other problems. And then I'm writing what's left over in the second parentheses. So I don't just have box though, right? I have 3a plus 8 and they're exactly the same. So this is part of that GCF. So that is factored by grouping. All right, so we're gonna do another one of those. Oops. So making groups. So it looks like it's 6r squared. And remember the strategy that if you're getting mixed up on those variables, write them out. One, that's 1. Okay, so if everything works out, my second parenthesis over here should be r plus 2. So I'm going to check that out. 5 is positive, so it's plus 5. Yay, it is! So I'm going to box my GCF. So remember, that's the GCF, the box. So I'm going to write what's left over first, just for simplicity. And then I'm going to go back and put what was in my box. And that is it. That is finished. We're good to go. I'm going to move over a little bit. This one's kind of a big one. Okay, so this is the important part. That's why I'm talking again. Okay, look for the GCF. Remember, that's the GCF. You're going to pull it out by division, because that's really the operation you're using, is division. Okay, write what's left over. And that is it. You cannot put these two terms together because this says power of 2. It says power of 1, which means they cannot be written in the same parentheses. So keep that in mind also. That's a good example to show that. And finally, we're at the last problem. This one's slightly different, and it will be on your next assignment. Not this one, but I still want you to do the notes on it. Just kind of give you a preview. I like to do that, so you know what's coming. Okay, so pause the video, write it down, because that was a big one. All right, I'm going to make the groups. So nothing's different at this point. Okay, just making those groups. So let's see. Just trying to find, so 4, 5, 8. 8. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. So this is the difference between the problems that we've been doing. This one has a negative sign right here. And if I compare the two parentheses that are about to happen, right, by the factoring, if I don't factor out the negative sign, I won't get the plus sign here. So this time I'm going to factor out a negative value. In this case, it's going to be negative 5. So I'm going to have you take a look at that. So the 5 is negative, so I write negative 5. That's the difference from the previous problems. Okay, it's that negative 5. And then I'm going to write what's left over, and you got to watch your signs. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, so there's the 6m, and look, it's working out, so that looks good. And then it's plus 5. And now, as you can see, I have 2 plus signs in the parentheses, which is great. because there's my GCF. A little messy. Better fix that. And then what's left over? 8m squared minus 5. And I just want you to be aware of this. This looks like it could be the difference of squares, but it's not, because 5 will never multiply itself with just regular integer numbers, meaning whole, negative, 0, and 1s, to continue factoring. So that's how you know this is finished. Later on, you're gonna have to check this, and sometimes it will be factorable. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Make sure you upload your notes to the assignment, not your interactive notebook, and thanks for watching.